It's Rick without the K. James presents In My Opinion Podcast.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.
We are back with another episode of In My Opinion Podcast. I've got Rudy, who just seems to be fucking. I think Rudy's part of the podcast.
I think I'm a recurring character in this motherfucker, man. Write me into the script already. Pay me.
But Rudy's out here in Sacramento doing his weekend at Laughs Unlimited. And he said, hey, come down to the condo and let's shoot some podcasts.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it here. And I said, man, I don't hit up enough Sacramento comics. So I got my man, D. Tyler.
Yes, sir.
I'm in the building.
The one and only.
So let's get to it, man. Let's get to it.
Actually, I just want to say this real quick, D. I'm surprised that you even came to this, considering the fact that Rick told me that y'all were on the phone for like 3 hours the other night. Like just having a long ass. What y'all do? Did y'all record an audio book together? What the fuck y'all doing on the phone for 3 hours?
I didn't even know. He just caught me at the right time, and I was bored as hell. And then
Rick is like,
oh, good conversation.
I thought it was just interesting. Rick thought it was really interesting for 180 minutes.
I thought at the end of the conversation he got annoyed with me, where he was like, "Bro, I think, yeah." Like, we were talking about my work situation or whatever, and he used to be a steward. So I was telling him how I'm just having problems at work with the union. And he's like, no, man, what you need to do, man.
Yeah, that got me, bro. That brought me out my inner Martin Luther King and shit. I was trying to solve the problem. Like, no, what we need to do, Rick James.
Turn the other cheek
You
type
need to
shit.
rise.
So, all right, you guys. The first question I got for you guys is what podcast do you listen to, right? And I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll give you my answers, because I'm pretty sure we all probably have a couple of the same answers. Which podcast do you listen to? And then do you prefer to just listen to them or watch them? Because I prefer to watch them. So,
Oh, you like the
D?
visual.
Yeah. We're going to let you go first.
This is probably gonna be shocking. The podcast I listen to the most is probably this podcast called Mysterious Universe.
Okay.
What's that shit about?
Bigfoot, aliens, Bigfoot with titties.
We got a conspiracy theorist on our hands.
That too, but it's like they research. Like, so what they do is they get like these weird, odd books, and then they like talk about them. So some of them, like this one dude was like some kind of like he was fighting like he could see demons, right? But he was ex.
You don't seem like someone that would listen about Bigfoot and demons.
We learning about D today, man.
Bro, I'm in it. If I wasn't doing comedy, I'd be writing science fiction and horror.
Oh, okay. This makes sense now.
I'm into that.
Okay.
So dude was an ex-military, right? Because some of the stuff, they don't believe it. Like, dude's ex-military Navy SEAL, but he also fights demons at the same time. It was just, yeah, it's some wild stuff, bro.
What's one of the best stories that you've heard on the podcast? Or that's the one that you probably share with everybody? Like if you're going to listen to this podcast, you got to listen to this story. So what was it?
There's so much. I've been listening to this podcast for like 7 years.
I mean, the Bigfoot one sounds crazy to me because my question is, okay, you said that if you weren't doing comedy, you'd be writing sci-fi. But my question is, okay, when you hear these stories about Bigfoot and whatnot, do you believe that Bigfoot exists?
Man, I listen to this shit because I've seen some shit. Like, once you see some shit, you can't unsee it. Like, people always wonder, like, if there's other shit out there. I think it's best to stay ignorant.
Really?
Because once you see something, the whole floodgates are open.
Right.
Imagine, like, you don't believe in vampires, right? But I don't even believe in vampires. But if I see one, I know there's more, like roaches. I know there's more in the walls.
Yeah. Once you see one, you know there's more of them.
Yeah, so once you see some weird
So what did you see that made you believe in Bigfoot?
A UFO.
You saw a UFO.
Yes.
You personally saw a UFO?
Personally, with 7 other people.
Can all 7 of those people, can all the other 6 or 7 people, will they like stand by their story?
That's complicated.
That's complicated.
Interesting. You know we're not the feds, right? He talking to us like we about to probe him or something.
Yeah.
Mr. Tyler, we're gonna need you to step into the back room with us.
He's not David Duchovny and shit. God damn it. Calm down, bro.
I'm saying kind of because when it happened, it's a small town up by Mount Shasta. And they see a lot of weird stuff up there. Yeah. So they don't want to be. To me, I thought seeing a UFO was cool, but to them, they're like, we don't want people thinking that we see UFOs and stuff. Like, we're trying to gangbang. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Crips and aliens don't get along, bro. Yeah. It's an intergalactic cripping out here, baby. Bro, could you imagine motherfuckers doing drive-bys with no gravity? Fucking bullets going straight up in the air.
But yeah, I seen it, man. And I started reading into it. That sparked my and I see some supernatural shit too. You know what I'm saying? I just seen enough weird things to know that there's something else. And then once you know, it's kind of like once the curtains like peaked a little bit, it's kind of like remember when you was a kid and you went to the video store,
yeah,
and they had the beads,
right?
And behind the beads was the pornos. You didn't know that at first, but as soon as you get a little peek, all you want to do now is go and see what else is in there.
Right.
That's how it is. Like as soon as you get like a little.
How many
peek,
times you go in behind those beads, man?
until I got pulled out.
Well, but the difference though, D, the difference though is that once you go behind those beads, you believe in pussy forever.
Yeah.
So my question to you is like, now that you've gone behind the beads, so to speak, do you believe in the creatures of another, type and whatnot, like Bigfoots and whatnot?
Fuck yeah.
So they're out there.
Indubitably.
Okay.
Yes.
So
do you share this with family?
Yeah, some of my family's in on this shit.
Bro,
Really?
this is okay.
I don't know a lot of black people that are into fucking aliens and Bigfoot and
I don't know a lot of people that believe in Bigfoot.
Now, here's the thing about Bigfoot, man. Like, I there's so much. I mean,
Go for it. Come on, man. Let's shake these
whatever
beads
you
up.
say you want us to edit out, we will. All
We
right?
running through these beads.
leave this in here, man. Bigfoot is fucking real, man.
Bigfoot.
Hey, by the way, those beads at those porno shops, anal beads. I don't know if anybody put that together, but that's exactly what. That's why it
Smell
stunk
weird.
every time you walk through it.
Hey, side note, that's when when porno boxes or the size of cereal boxes.
Huge, bro.
Huge. You couldn't-
Family size.
Yeah, you couldn't tuck that shit. It was like the size of Kit cereal.
Motherfuckers were willing to get caught and lose their marriage over a big ass VHS porno box. I'm willing to do it, honey. I put it on Betamax.
Oh, Betamax. But
Bro,
yeah,
well,
Bigfoot's real, bro.
I'm a little surprised to hear that. Not because the thing is weird. I'm just a little surprised,
Doesn't Angela Johnson do something like that?
She believes in aliens?
Like she has a podcast where she talks about like haunted houses or some shit like that. I think
That's real too. I've been ghost hunting before.
you've been
Now-
what the
You believe in ghosts?
Now look at the ghost hunting thing. Just because this is out to the public, I just want y'all to know that it wasn't my fucking idea. I was on a show with Jimmy Earl.
Yeah.
So we were in Reno, and is it Virginia Town or what's that little town called outside of Reno? Tom, I want
Truckee.
No, it's
Mepos?
No, it's one of the most haunted towns, like Virginia City.
Okay, Virginia City.
So not Tom Sawyer. What's the dude that wrote Tom Sawyer's name?
Mark Twain?
Mark Twain, yeah.
Mark Twain's office is there.
Okay.
And the building is haunted as hell. And so on the way back, he's like, "Hey, my friends are ghost hunters. Do you want to go do this ghost thing with me?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have a choice. I rode with you, right? I'm not gonna sit in the car." So we get to this.
I want to know what the car looked like. It was like the Ghostbusters station wagon?
No, it was Jimmy's personal car. I think it was a Prius. I don't know.
But it did have a Ghostbuster sticker on it.
But shout out to Jimmy Earl. He's not a Ghostbuster. But he just knows him.
Okay.
But so we go in this place, and I'm like, at first I think it's bullshit because they got like an Xbox Connect. You know the Xbox Connect that you use to like.
Oh, it's to kind of be interactive with the game.
They use that to see ghosts because that's okay. It picks up bodies and it picks up like a stick figure of you to translate. So if there's no person, like people have found out that their house was haunted because they had their Xbox on and it registered 2 players.
Right,
and the motherfucker's like, it's another motherfucker on the couch with me. But
So
it ain't.
okay, so it's picking up the energy in the room that would be consistent with another human or another spirit or like an energy.
You can see the shape of the body in the stick figure.
Okay.
So if somebody's waving, you see a stick figure waving at you, right?
Right.
So they're all over the place. And so I'm freaked out because I'm like, yo, this is like realer than I thought. And then the dudes, like these gung-ho white dudes, they're hella rude to the ghosts.
Oh,
Like they talk,
what are they be saying?
They talk to the ghost with full white privilege. Like,
This shit is eternal, motherfucker.
they're like,
I'll never give it up.
you know how when you walk into a room and people say, if there's a ghost here, could you say something?
Right.
They're like, yo, hey, come on. Hitting the wall, say something.
Speak up.
Don't be a bitch. Like, I'm like, yo. And then there's one part
Show me
where
your ghost nuts.
they let me hold the Xbox thing, right? And I looked and there was like this column, like a support beam. and there was a ghost or a figure of a person sitting down. You know what I'm saying? Like just sitting down on the ground, like he was drunk or hurt. And then I showed the guy. I said, "Hey man, I found one." He goes, "Oh shit!" And he goes over to where the ghost was and fucking like act like he's jacking the ghost off.
What?
And the fucking ghost goes bananas. It starts flipping around. It starts flying all over the place. Like obviously,
Oh
was
my
pissed off.
God, bro.
And that's not the worst part.
Was this guy a nurse?
Or in the Marines.
I don't know, white boy games, but I'm like,
Bro,
yo,
you gonna jerk off a ghost, bro?
exactly, bro. So then,
What if it's a girl? I don't even know.
well, he did this. So I
Yeah.
don't. Whatever happened.
Yeah, what if it was like a double-headed dildo that he was shoving in?
I don't know, man. I just know like I felt uncomfortable because
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, you need to if there's ghosts here and we can't see
Stop
them,
jacking him off.
you need to respect them motherfuckers.
Right,
'cause
real
we're,
talk.
We're in their house.
Real talk.
So I'm still not really convinced, right? And then we got this psychic with us. Now that's where shit gets weird.
Okay.
So the psychic, we go down to this basement. He says this place is the most haunted. We have the most activity, and I'm like, I don't want to go down there. But if I don't, I'm gonna be upstairs by myself.
With the
So I'm like,
with a ghost that just got jerked off.
I know I'm black. I'm the only black person there. I gotta stay with the white people,
Right.
Because as soon as I veer off, fucking done.
So it's gonna happen.
So we go downstairs, right? And the psychic, she starts crying. She's like boo-hooing. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And then she's like, then it gets cold. Like,
Yeah.
you know, say it really does. Like, I feel a temperature drop, boom. And she starts crying. She says, I'm seeing like this Native American woman and she's crying and something's wrong with her and I think she's hurt. And I'm like, looking around like, here? Right? So we get down to the basement. They got this glass case.
Yeah.
And in this glass case is the remains of a Native American woman.
See.
And they can't even move it until the tribe comes and has to they can't even touch it. They just have to leave it there and leave it alone.
Okay.
They can't touch it until the tribe comes and retrieves the remains and does a proper burial. But that chick is there.
When's that tribe coming back?
I don't know.
Fuck, man. That's
But-
pretty. That is pretty crazy. I will say this though. Like, I mean, if the lady. Do you feel like these things could be set up though in a way? Because it does kind of sound like there's some pockets for this to be a setup to scare people, to get them to believe in the ghost busting business.
They had never been there before.
They had never been there before.
This is their first time there. They had just got access to the
So the
building.
girl that was crying and said that there was a Native American woman, that she could see a Native American woman, she didn't know that there was a Native American burial downstairs?
No.
Interesting.
And when she said that, the dude that was leading us, he kind of like turned pale.
Right.
Because he was like, but he didn't say nothing yet. And then we got down there and he walked us straight over to us like, and explained what it was. And the lady was like, that's her.
That's what I saw. Fuck.
And I was like, dude, I just started like, I got hella cold. I started like sweating. I was cold and sweating. I was like, I want out of this.
So how did you guys end up leaving? Like, when did you decide to leave? Like, okay, that we've had enough. Let's get up out of here.
I started getting dark.
Oh shit! This was in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Oh my
He
god!
said once it started getting
Ghost
dark.
in broad daylight.
Time to do a show.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers are reckless.
We gotta
It
go.
was broad daylight. There was no like. It was dark in the basement though. The
Yeah.
basement was dark as fuck.
That's crazy, D.
Man, bro.
I've never understood why a town could be haunted. Like you said, Virginia town was the most haunted town. Like, why would a ghost
Pick a town and, then
and
pick
stay
a
within
shitty
the
town.
city limits? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would a ghost respect the city limits? Like, how is a town or even a house? Like, do they is that the notion that they just don't know that they can leave whenever they want?
Maybe, or if they don't even know they're dead.
Maybe they don't even know they're dead.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I was dead in my apartment, and especially during COVID, I could have been dead.
Right.
I was in
You
the
had no
house
idea.
all day. Didn't know what time it was. Didn't know what day it was.
Yeah. Gotta go buy
You
some
guys
shit
been
at some
watching
point.
Sixth Sense too long, and
Bro,
shit.
maybe I'm dead right now. Y'all talking to a dead man right now.
So, I will say, man, I don't know about you guys, but the first time I watched the movie Sixth Sense, I never caught on to what the fuck was going on
Until the
And
end?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
I had a friend who watched it in 15 minutes into it. He goes, "Yeah, I know," and I go, "What the fuck you mean you know?" He was like, "Yeah, it's the same dude. He's been dead." And I'm like,
What?
I did not see.
and I was
I didn't
like,
see that shit coming.
God damn.
That writing got me. They got me good.
Yeah, no,
that
it
was
was
like
fucking
one of the
dope.
most satisfying endings of a movie that I've ever
But
seen in my life.
I love movies with like that or Usual Suspects. When,
Yeah.
when they flip it at the end for you, I'm like, those are
Yeah.
my fucking shits. So
Or when it ends sad, yeah.
podcast for you, Rudy. What do you listen to?
What I be listening to? I listen to a lot of. I listen to Flagrant 2 with Andrew Schultz. I fuck with that. I listen to. I haven't listened to an entire episode of Joe Rogan lately because it's not, you see so many of the little clips that I watch a shitload of clips. I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson talks. Do you know who Jordan Peterson is? I fuck with Jordan Peterson heavy, man. This motherfucker, he's like a Canadian professor, and he's like a clinical psychologist and some other shit.
Older dude, always dressed real well.
Always dressed real well. I want to say older, but he's probably like in his late 50s, something like that.
I think his daughter does a podcast.
Yeah, his daughter does a podcast as well. Just a very sobering type of mentality that he has, especially for men, but just people in general. But so I don't think he has a podcast specifically, but anything that has to do with him when he's doing talks or debates, I fuck with that heavy. I listen to a lot of that type of shit, like a lot of like debates and like, questioning philosophies. You know what I mean? Like what role should men and women play in relationships, and how does a man strive for greatness? Like that type of shit. Like if the self-help aisle at Barnes and Noble had a fucking podcast, like I would be fucking with that. You know what I'm saying? All right. So and anything that has to do with that, I get into that heavy.
Okay.
That's why my podcast is the way that it is now, because I'm trying to like emulate that. You know what I'm saying? Where I bring people on, have them tell a story, how it changed them, what they learned from it. And then that's it. That's the whole podcast. So
and I think that's a dope setup. I think I've told you that before, and not only because I'm one of the best episodes on your podcast.
Absolutely. Right? You got, bro. It just surpassed 50 views the other day.
Oh, shit.
You're killing it, bro. You're killing it.
Famous. To a bunch of 12-year-olds.
Shit, bro. The 12-year-olds are watching my shit.
But no, the concept for those people that don't know, I don't know, we've talked about it before. The concept on your podcast is you talk about something tragic that's happened in someone's life.
Right.
And then, how they
Well, the name of the podcast is Tragic, but it's an acronym. And the letters stand for Time Renders All Great and Justice Comical. So what I'm asking people to do is come on, tell me about something that really fucked you up. You were up against it, a challenge, an obstacle in your life. What you did to, survive it, and then how you came out better on the other side. Like, what lessons did you learn from it? That's the entire point of the podcast. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something tragic, but, I just feel like tragedies come in all different sizes and flavors. It's not always like somebody died. You could have a tragic, you could have an injustice of the heart. You could have an injustice of the mind. An injustice of the body, like my man, when he was on the second episode when he talking about losing his finger in the car accident, Right. So, and it's about the lesson that you learn.
And I think what was good about the episode as well is what's his name? Jesus, right?
Jesus, yeah.
I did a show with him just recently with Kabir or whatever at Kirby's, and he was like, "Hey man, great episode." And I was like, "Oh, you watched it?" He goes, "I edited the motherfucker."
Jesus Cruz. Yep.
I didn't know he's your editor. And
Shout out to Jesus Cruz, bro, from Fremont. This motherfucker's a brilliant videographer.
And he was like, "Bro, just the fact that we had that film of you in the car, not in the actual accident, but like literally it was the next day, me sitting in the hospital, having tubes out of my head and shit like that." He was like, "Dude, it just gave it a different emphasis." So he goes, "Man, when I was editing, I knew that we had something there." And I was like, cool, man.
He knows.
And I said,
so you can't do my podcast unless you got footage of it, of whatever the fuck happened to you. I'm going to need actual footage.
So,
Footage.
Tell me about the time you got your ass up and show me proof.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't checked out Rudy's, check it out. I always put the link on my video as well.
Yes, sir.
To answer my own question, obviously it's my motherfucking podcast.
Right.
I gotta put that out there first, right? I gotta watch my podcast because I am the one who edits it. And I told you, one of the reasons I like Rudy on the podcast is sometimes he calls me out on my shit, man.
On the horse shit, man.
And I don't realize it while we're doing the podcast, but since I have to edit my own video, I'll look at it and be like, damn, motherfucker. Did it again. He Jedi mind tricked me.
He just be editing and reflecting all night long.
I'm like,
let me rewind that real quick. Then what do you say right there?
Got me. So yeah, it's growth, man.
It also makes it's more interesting to have somebody on the podcast too that's like willing to push back. You know what I mean, on whatever you're talking about.
Right.
It's like radio 101. Like you want to have somebody. You can't have everybody agree on everything.
Right.
And it's like
boring.
But I think that's what part of evolution is.
Right.
I tell people there's some shit that I've said on season 1 where I don't believe on season 3. You know what I mean? And that's just the growth of me being a human being and realizing, man, sometimes things change. So
that's real.
My podcast, I listen to Flagrant 2 as well. I'm a big Andrew Schultz fan, but you know, he's one of the reasons I do this podcast because he's given us the template on how to be successful and transition this over to ticket sales for your stand-up comedy. So that Brilliant Idiots, which he's on with Charlamagne.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that.
Is a dope ass podcast. I like Tiger Belly, which is Bobby Lee and his girlfriend. I like the fact that his girlfriend's kind of, you know, the stable one in the relationship, calms him down. He says some weird shit in that. The one with Theo Von and Brendan Schaub, that shit.
Theo Von's funny, man.
Theo Von's fucking
you know, it's
off the wall with some of the
but see,
shit
what's
says.
crazy about like the podcast world, like you're explaining it right now, the ones that you listen to. It's funny how like at the end of the day, a lot of the podcasts they're all very similar. Like the setup is very similar. You have somebody with a name who's gonna lead it. And then they all bring in, because especially in the comedy world, it's pretty much the same guest on every single podcast, you know. And it's like that's why I like when a podcast has a theme to it. Like on this one, for example, you know, we talk about specifically we have questions lined up. And we're gonna give our opinion on stuff because a lot of times the comedy podcasts they do end up being the same things. I've done so many podcasts where, and I'm not saying that it's bad, but you just start realizing that it's the same pattern. You know, you get three or four comics, maybe 5. They all sit down, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're talking shit. And throughout the podcast, you're going to get like little sprinkles of something good.
Right.
But for the most part, though, it's going to be a lot of people, you know, just talking about like inside industry stuff, you know, that maybe a lot of the listeners won't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Sometimes
Or care.
Right. That's what happens when comics have the same guest on their show.
But I like certain things like what's his name? Honey Melon or Honey Dew. I don't know if you catch it. He's a comic too. And he had like Joe Coy on his podcast. And that's when Joe Coy didn't really talk too much about comedy, but you got his background and you got like how his brother suffers from mental illness.
Yeah.
And he knows what it's like to have his brother come picked up because he's wilding out and the cops take him away. And so you get a different side where you're like, shit, man. And that's what I try to do sometimes with this. You know, last night I had Tony Roberts on and I try to veer into that comic's personal life.
Yeah.
And I try to watch other podcasts and realize, okay, this has already been asked. Let me stay away from that or piggyback off of that because maybe you didn't give enough information on that.
Right.
So let me pull that out where me as a listener or viewer was like, man, I wanted to hear the rest of that story. Why didn't you finish that up? So, you know, that's where I watch a lot of podcasts, and that's why I brought up the question is because, you know, you got to do your homework on what your competition is.
That's real.
So, you know, I sit there and I watch a lot of shit, but it's little clips. It's you know, I'm not sitting down watching an hour and a half of everybody's podcast, or if I do have it on, it's because I'm doing something.
Yeah, I'll do it like if I'm on the car, if I'm driving somewhere in the car.
But Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.